Before Pride Nights, hashtags, and rainbow jerseys, there were players who risked everything just to exist. They laced up, dropped buckets, won titles, then were punished for who they loved. From hidden marriages to hate from the stands, these 10 gay and queer basketball stars weren't just benched, they were nearly erased from history. Stay with us to the end, because some of them you've never heard of, but you should have. 1. Brittney Griner. Too tall to disappear. Before she was a headline, she was just a kid in Texas who could dunk. Brittney Griner was always too much for the box the world tried to put her in. Too tall, too strong, too masculine, too unapologetically herself. Colleges lined up for her talent. Baylor got her body, but they didn't want her truth. At a conservative Christian university, Brittney was told in a dozen subtle ways, "We love your blocks, not your identity." Coaches hinted she should tone it down. Her queerness was treated like a PR problem, not a part of her soul. She won titles with a locked closet behind her. Imagine carrying your team and hiding yourself at the same time. When she got to the WNBA, she finally said it out loud. She's gay, she's proud, and she's not interested in pretending to be anyone's idea of pretty or feminine. The comments rolled in. Is she even a woman? What is she? People mocked her voice, her haircut, her body. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was playing defense against the entire internet. Then came 2022. A vape cartridge, a Russian airport. Suddenly, Brittney's life wasn't just a sports story. It was a geopolitical chess piece. Some people prayed for her. Others said, "She broke the law, let her rot." A few even sneered, "If she hates America so much, why bring her back?" As if being a queer black woman automatically made her less worthy of rescue. Yet, when she finally came home, she did what she's always done. Laced up, stepped back on the court, and refused to shrink. No victory tour, no perfect PR script. Just a woman who's been through hell, still willing to show up in front of cameras and crowds that once laughed at her. Here's the question that splits comment sections in half. Did Brittney get special treatment? Or did she finally get the bare minimum every citizen deserves? And deeper than that, why do some people only remember her mistake, but forget the years she inspired queer kids who look and sound like her? Drop one in the comments if Brittney's comeback meant something to you. And tell us honestly, when you look at her, do you see a controversy or a survivor who refused to disappear? 2. Jason Collins, the jersey with 2 closets. For 12 seasons, Jason Collins was the kind of player casual fans forgot and coaches loved. A 7-foot center who set hard screens, made smart fouls, and did the dirty work stars didn't want to do. No signature shoe, no all-star game. Just a long, steady career lived in the shadows of brighter names and in the shadow of a secret. In 2013, he changed sports history with one sentence. "I'm a 34-year-old NBA center, I'm black, and I'm gay." It wasn't a leak or an expose. It was his own words, on his own terms, on the cover of Sports Illustrated. For the first time, the NBA had an openly gay active player. The league that prided itself on swagger and toughness had to look itself in the mirror. But here's the part people argue about. Jason came out near the end of his career. Some critics said, "Of course he waited. There was nothing to lose." Others accused him of chasing relevance, of turning his sexuality into a brand. They didn't see the nights he stayed quiet in hotel rooms, the jokes he laughed off in locker rooms, the calculus of survival he did every single day. And then there's the number on his back, 98. A quiet tribute to Matthew Shepard, the gay college student murdered in 1998. For years, Collins carried that number in silence, hoping someone would notice. No one did. The league loved causes with hashtags and campaigns, but not the living, breathing gay man boxing out under the rim. When he finally checked into a game with the Brooklyn Nets after coming out, the crowd gave him a standing ovation. It looked like a happy ending. Yet he never played another full season. Was that just age and declining skill? Or did teams quietly decide one openly gay player was enough experiment for now? The NBA will never tell you. Jason's story pushes an uncomfortable question. Is a pioneer still a pioneer if his career fades right after he speaks? Or is that the price of breaking the silence? Drop 2. If you remember where you were when you heard an NBA player finally said, "I'm gay." And tell us, do you think the league truly changed that day? Or just learned how to change the narrative? 3. Sheryl Swoopes, the legend who broke more than one mold. Before there was a WNBA logo, there was already a name everyone whispered: Sheryl Swoopes. First player ever signed to the league, 3-time MVP, 4-time champion. The kind of talent that made you say, if there's a women's Jordan, it's her. She had the shoe deal, the medals, the poster on bedroom walls. On paper, her story looked perfect. In 2005, she added a chapter no sponsor had written for her. She came out as gay. Not by accident, not through scandal, just a simple, honest interview. She talked about the woman she loved, the life she wanted, the truth she was tired of hiding. For a sport constantly battling sexist jokes and lesbian panic, it was a nuclear moment. The blowback came fast. Some fans applauded, others said she had ruined her image. Conservative voices used her as proof that women's basketball was too gay. Even within the LGBTQ+ community, Sheryl's life became a battleground, because years later she got engaged to a man. Suddenly, the same people who once begged for visibility were calling her a traitor. Was she gay? Bi? Fluid? Confused? Opportunistic? Everyone had an opinion. Few had her experience. Sheryl kept saying the same thing. She fell in love with a person, not a gender. For some, that was liberating, a rare, honest conversation about sexual fluidity. For others, it felt like a betrayal of the lesbian icon label they had placed on her without asking. And that's the uncomfortable truth her story forces us to face. We say we fight for freedom, but we still demand neat labels. We preach, love is love, then punish people when their love doesn't stay in the box we built for them. Sheryl didn't just cross defenders, she crossed lines inside our own community and exposed how rigid we can be. So what is she really? A sellout, like some angry comments claim? Or a reminder that identity can evolve and that queerness isn't a contract you sign once and never revisit? Drop 3 if you think Sheryl still deserves her flowers, on the court and off it. And tell us, does her story make you uncomfortable? Or does it finally make room for people whose hearts don't follow straight lines? 4. John Amaechi, the man who outgrew the arena. John Amaechi never quite fit the script people had for a 6'10". NBA center. While others blasted music in the locker room, he was reading. While teammates chased endorsements, he was thinking about life after basketball. Quiet, British, thoughtful, he moved through the league like a ghost, useful on the court, invisible off it. And under all of that, he carried a secret everyone told him would end his career. He was gay. He played for the Cavs, the Magic, the Jazz, packed arenas, road trips, film sessions, always with the same rule. Don't say the wrong thing, don't look the wrong way, don't give anyone a reason to ask questions. The NBA loved him as long as he was just a body in the paint. The moment he added the word gay to his identity, they told him the cheers would stop. So he waited. He smiled. He passed the ball. He swallowed himself. Then, in 2007, after retirement, he did something the league had quietly hoped no one would do. He told the truth. Man in the Middle wasn't a scandal book. It was a scalpel. He dissected the casual slurs, the no homo jokes, the way coaches weaponized masculinity, and the reaction. One former All-Star, Tim Hardaway, went on live radio and said, "I hate gay people." The mask slipped. The world finally saw what Amaechi had been surviving all along. Critics still argue, if he was so brave, why didn't he come out while playing? But that question misses the point. Why do we demand that queer athletes risk their contracts, their safety, their sanity just to entertain our need for a live-action hero moment? John chose a different kind of courage, to build a second life as a psychologist, a thinker, a leader. He traded highlight reels for hard conversations in boardrooms and classrooms. So what matters more? The timing of his coming out, or the fact that he did it at all and forced the NBA to show its real face? Drop 4 in the comments if Amaechi's kind of quiet, intelligent rebellion means something to you. And tell us, do we really want queer athletes to be free? Or do we just want them to be brave on our schedule? 5. The Layshia Clarendon, the player who refused to pick one box. Layshia Clarendon was everything a coach is supposed to love. Tough, smart, relentless. An All-American at Cal, a steady presence in the WNBA, the kind of guard who holds a team together. But the world kept trying to do something coaches are terrible at. Fit them into a neat little box. Female, straight. Ma'am. End of story. Except that was never their story. Over time, Layshia started saying the quiet parts out loud. They were queer. They were non-binary. They were trans. They used they, them, and she, her. In a league that already carried the weight of being labeled too gay, Clarendon layered identities like armor. Black, Christian, queer, non-binary, outspoken. For some people, that made them a beacon. For others, a target. In 2021, they took a step that made headlines and hate comments collide. Top surgery. While still an active WNBA player, no hiding, no press release crafted by a PR team. Just photos, honesty, and a simple truth. This is my body. This is my joy. Fans argued in circles. Some celebrated, others snarled about biology, real women, fairness in sports. Funny how the loudest opinions usually came from people who'd never watched a single Lynx game. Layshia kept playing, kept organizing. As a leader in the players' union, they pushed for better pay, better maternity protections, better policies for queer and trans athletes. They didn't just come out. They dragged the entire conversation about gender in sports into the present tense. And in doing so, they became the person so many kids had never seen before. A non-binary pro bowler who didn't apologize for existing. Here's the fault line. Are we actually worried about fairness? Or are we just uncomfortable with a world where gender isn't a clean, simple checkbox? And if someone like Clarendon plays, bleeds, and sweats just like everyone else, why is respecting their name and pronouns the part people choke on? Drop 5. If Layshia's courage expanded your idea of what an athlete can look like. And be honest in the comments. Does their story scare you, confuse you, or secretly give you permission to be more yourself? 6. Derrick Gordon, the first out man who still had to prove himself. Derrick Gordon didn't grow up dreaming of being a symbol. He dreamed of March Madness, of packed arenas, TV timeouts, and the sound of a buzzer beater dropping through the net. By 2014, he had all of that. A starting guard spot at UMass, a ticket to the NCAA tournament, and the kind of athleticism scouts circle with red pens. What he didn't have was peace. In locker rooms and team dinners, he laughed along with jokes that cut into him like glass. Dates were lies. Instagram posts were performances. He'd sneak glances at guys he found attractive, then punish himself for it later. He was living the dream and dying inside it. Until one day, he decided he'd rather lose basketball than lose himself. He sat down with his coach, his teammates, then the world, and said 3 simple words: "I am gay." Overnight, he became the first openly gay men's Division I college basketball player in history. Reporters came calling. Headlines screamed. Some fans cheered. Others rolled their eyes. So what? Why do we need to know? Is this a distraction? As if straight players don't bring their girlfriends on the court, kiss them on camera, and get applauded for it. Visibility, it seems, is only a distraction when it's queer. On the court, something shifted. Derrick has said he became a better teammate, a better player, a better man. The tension left his shoulders, but homophobia doesn't vanish just because you tell the truth. He still got the side eyes in opposing gyms, the slurs from the stands, the online hate from people who only knew him as that gay player. He didn't make the NBA, and some people smugly filed that away as proof that being out hurts your career. Or did he just find a different definition of winning? After college, Derrick became a firefighter, running toward burning buildings while some of his critics still hide behind anonymous usernames. He mentors queer youth, answers DMs from kids who say, "Your story saved me." No, he never signed an NBA contract. But for the people who needed to see a gay man checking into a Division I game and owning it, he was and is everything. So here's the real question. If courage doesn't end with a millionaire contract, are we brave enough to value it anyway? Drop 6. If Derrick's story reminded you that being yourself is bigger than any league. And tell us, should an athlete's legacy be measured by trophies or by the lives they quietly keep from giving up? 7. Isaac Humphries. The night the locker room became a lifeline? Isaac Humphries had the kind of body coaches dream about. 6'11", strong, skilled. From Kentucky to a stint with the Atlanta Hawks to the NBL in Australia, his life on paper looked like a highlight reel. Off the court, something darker was looping. In November 2022, he gathered his Melbourne United teammates in a circle. Cameras rolled. This wasn't about a playbook. His voice shook as he told them the part no one saw. Nights crying alone, the moment he tried to take his own life, the years convinced there was no place in men's basketball for a gay man. Then he said the words that changed everything. "I'm gay." Not a post-retirement press conference, not a polished documentary. A raw confession mid-season in a locker room built on toughness and bravado. He wasn't just coming out. He was admitting he almost didn't live long enough to do it. For once, the silence between teammates wasn't awkward. It was sacred. Some cried. Some hugged him. No one walked out. The internet did what it does. Some called him brave. Others called him soft. Attention-seeking. Keep sexuality out of sports. As if straight players don't flaunt their relationships every game. But Isaac forced everyone to face one brutal truth. What's the point of winning if you don't want to be alive to celebrate? If you've ever had a night wondering if the world would really miss you, that speech wasn't just for his team, it was for you. For every queer kid who loves a man's sport and thinks there's no room for them. Drop 7. If Isaac's honesty hits you in the chest, and if you're still here, still watching instead of scrolling past, you're part of the tiny percentage who actually care. Stick with us. Hit subscribe. Someone like Isaac might need the exact story you helped keep alive. 8. Simone Augustus, the superstar who turned love into legislation. Before the banners and parades, Simone Augustus was just a kid in Baton Rouge with a ball and a dream. By the time she hit the WNBA, she was a problem. 4-time champion, multiple All-Star, the smooth mid-range assassin behind the Minnesota Lynx dynasty. She could have kept it simple. Score, smile, go home. Instead, she wanted something more radical than rings, the right to marry the woman she loved. In 2012, Minnesota was poised to ban same-sex marriage in its constitution. Churches preached against it. Politicians campaigned on it. In the middle stood Simone and her fiancé, Layshia. No glitter, no slogan. Just one clear message. I want to marry her here, in this state, in front of these people. Suddenly, her face wasn't just in arenas. It was in political ads, news segments, living rooms where parents whispered, "But I like her as a player." Some fans grumbled she was bringing politics into sports. But when the government decides who you're allowed to love, that's not politics. That's your life. Here's the twist. Minnesota voted the ban down. Love won. Maybe it was a million tiny factors, but you can't deny this. Simone made it harder to hate in the abstract. It's easy to vote against those people. It's harder when those people are the reason your team has trophies. She didn't write laws. She didn't sit in Congress. She just refused to separate her jump shot from her heart. And that was enough to move the needle. Drop 8 if Simone's story makes you a little prouder of who you are, or who you love. And if you're still with us this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer this channel was built for. Hit subscribe, stay in this community, and keep these stories alive. Every view, every comment, every share is another tiny vote for a world where love is never up for debate. 9. Sue Wicks, the quiet rebel who spoke first. Long before Pride Nights and rainbow logos, Sue Wicks was out there boxing out in an era built on don't ask, don't tell, don't even think about it. Rutgers legend, one of the original faces of the New York Liberty. The WNBA was new, fragile, desperate to look family-friendly. Everyone knew there were lesbians in women's basketball. No one was supposed to say it out loud. Sue did. In 2002, still an active player, she answered a simple question with terrifying honesty. Yes, she's gay. No drama. No spin. Just a calm refusal to lie. To today's fans, that might sound small. Back then, it was a grenade. The league worried about sponsors. Parents wrote letters. Commentators whispered about the WNBA's image problem. Here's what people still argue about. Did her honesty cost her opportunities? Would she have had a bigger career if she'd stayed silent? We'll never know. What we do know is this. Once she came out, other players quietly exhaled. She cracked the glass so others could walk through later without cutting themselves as badly. Sue Wicks will never trend like a scandal or a superstar arrest. But without people like her, there is no Brittney being openly gay on draft day, no Simone campaigning for marriage, no Clarendon posting surgery pics with a jersey in frame. Someone had to be first in the room to say, "Yes, I'm gay, so what?" Drop 9. If you think pioneers like Sue deserve as much love as the headliners, and if you made it this far, you're clearly one of the real ones. Stick around, hit subscribe, and keep showing up for the quiet rebels history almost forgets. 10. Babe Diedrickson Zacharias, the legend history tried to straighten. Before the WNBA, before Title IX, before anyone had words like butch or queer visibility, there was Babe Diedrickson. She started on dusty AAU basketball courts, dominating so hard they had to rewrite what they thought women's bodies could do. Then came Olympic golds, golf championships, records that still stun. She wasn't just good for a woman, she was better, period. The world didn't know what to do with a woman that strong. Reporters mocked her voice, her muscles, her unladylike swagger. The fix? A husband, a wrestling promoter who looked perfect on paper. A neat bow on a life that refused to be neat. Except there was someone else, Betty Dodd, the woman who traveled with her, lived with her, held her hand through cancer. Officially, friend? Realistically, you decide. Here's where it gets messy. Babe never came out. There wasn't even a closet to step out of, just silence and survival. Some historians call her relationship with Betty romantic. Others dodge the question. Maybe that's the point. Queer history is full of women reduced to companions and footnotes. So was Babe a lesbian icon? Or are we projecting modern labels onto a past that couldn't speak its name? There's no easy answer, but we can say this. A woman who shattered records while being punished for not acting feminine enough feels painfully familiar to a lot of queer athletes today. Drop 10 if you believe women like Babe and Betty deserve to be talked about as more than rumors. And if these 10 stories made you feel seen, angry, proud, or just less alone, hit subscribe, share this video, and tell us, which athlete's courage lit something up in you? The game keeps moving, but only we decide who gets remembered. These 10 stories aren't just about basketball. They're about closets, courage, and the cost of telling the truth when the world begs you to shut up and play. If even one of them made you feel seen, angry, or a little less alone, don't let their names disappear again. Drop a comment, share your favorite story, and hit subscribe so we can keep unearthing the queer history they tried to erase. The game moves on. We choose who gets remembered,